what you want. Baby, I got it. Come home. Hey, baby. What a waste, because, these are... I can suspend my leg in the air like this for a minute. You are overweight. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Zambia. What a day. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. On this podcast, what we do is take a look at what's making news in Zambia, and sometimes beyond Zambia. But what we do the most is try to add context to some of these stories. Today is not any different. Thank you so much for joining us as we wrap up the week. What is it that is making news? What's coming up? Well, a 13-year-old girl loses leg after police shooting in Mufulira's Kantanchi area. The family is seeking justice. We'll talk a bit about that. A man in Chainda here in Lusaka has been sentenced to life for strangling his ex-girlfriend, the 5-year-old son, and dumping the body in millimil sacks. But also, Zambia aims to generate 1,000 megawatts of solar power by 2025 to combat energy deficit. That's really interesting. That's according to President Hakainde Hichilema, who's calling on the private sector to join in. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Let's get straight into it. Now, on a very sad note is where we start, with a 13-year-old girl from Kantanchi Township in Mufulira District, Bukatawunda, who has undergone a leg amputation at Arthur Davison Children's Hospital in Ndola after being accidentally shot by police. The incident occurred on 22nd of February 2025 when Bukata was struck by a stray bullet allegedly fired by police officers in pursuit of a suspect who had escaped from a police vehicle in Kantanchi's Section 5. Her father, Clifford Kunda, confirmed the amputation to Diamond News, stating that doctors determined it was the only viable option to save her life. Let's take a look at this.
An unfortunate circumstance happened on Friday, 22nd, 2025, when a 13-year-old girl from Kantanchi Township in Mufulira District, identified as Bukatawunda, was mistakenly shot in the leg by police who were pursuing a suspect who had escaped from a police vehicle in Kantanchi's Section 5. Since the incident, medical experts on the Copper Belt province have been working tirelessly to save the life of Bukata until it was determined that the only way is to amputate her leg. Today, Bukata's father, Clifford Kunda, has confirmed to Diamond News that her leg has finally been amputated.
Now he's able to talk in a jovial mood, even though she has been amputated.
Okay.
So I'm just from seeing her. According to the doctor, said it will take maybe 3 weeks for the wounds to be healed. So 3 weeks we shall be here, just nursing the girl.
Meanwhile, Kantanchi Member of Parliament Anton Mumba is saddened with this development.
The only thing that I can mention is that I will work with the family as a area member of parliament to ensure that any compensation, any support they will need, compensation in this case from the side of government is duly awarded to them. From my end, I'm open, like I told Mr. Clifford Kunda.
Despite growing concern over the incident, police have yet to issue an official statement on the matter. Diamond News is wishing Bukatawunda a quick recovery. Rogan Labika, Diamond News, Copper Belt Province.
Well, first of all, it's very sad that despite the growing concern, there's been no statement from the Zambia Police Service. It's very unfortunate because it seems they're not considering the fact that they are accountable to the people. When something like that happens, they are accountable to the people, they are accountable to the family. The father of Bukata complains that they've not received support from the government, which is very unfortunate because this child used to play football. And now this is a disruption of life. And I hate how unscripted life can get, but this is so sad, honestly speaking, if we have to confront it. But let's also talk about extrajudicial justice, extrajudicial methods of justice. If somebody is running away and you're in a public place, is the best option firing at them? Especially considering what has happened now, that you have a stray bullet. And a lot of people argue against the idea of a stray bullet because it's not a stray bullet. It was aimed at something and unfortunately didn't hit what it was aimed at. What was the objective in this case? The suspect is running away from a police van. The objective is to kill them? Is that what the objective is? And can we really just talk about the discipline of firing in public? And then it lands on a 13-year-old girl. I know. Anybody who's probably working with the Zambia Police Service right now is rolling their eyes and they're saying, well, it's easy because you've never done all of this. Well, it's easy also to make that kind of defense because your foot has not been cut off. Your leg has not been cut off. When you had absolutely nothing to do with the, suspect. It's really, but what is also worse is the fact that there's no statement whatsoever from the Zambia Police Service. We're not talking about an individual in this case. We're not talking about the person that did it, for example. But the Zambia Police Service must take accountability to an extent, shouldn't they? And so this is very unfortunate, what has happened. And maybe it would have been great if the family would have heard. But I think it's very sad because she's only 13 years old and she used to play football, which she's not going to be able to do anymore. And because of that, you would expect that there will be some word from the side of the government. Contention Member of Parliament says he's going to engage the government and ensure that it reaches a logical conclusion, all of this. But still, it would have been great to hear from the law enforcement agencies. But let's talk about the Southern Truck Drivers Association of Zambia, who are calling on the police to intensify patrols along the Chirundu-Kafue road, where truck drivers continue to face attacks from criminals. There's a viral video that's been circulating on social media, and it shows a truck driver being harassed by unidentified men that are armed with metallic objects. They actually beat him up in the video, and the attackers reportedly stole the driver's personal belongings after failing to find cash. Let's take a look at this.
They smashed this driver's right window in an attempt to rob him of his money and personal stuff. These attacks are on the rise, prompting the Southern Truck Drivers Association of Zambia to appeal for increased police patrols on highways.
So it is vital for those responsible for safety, the safety of our drivers and other citizens of this country to hold their responsibilities. So as the association, we will call upon the Zambian police to take immediate action to ensure our members using that road can operate safely.
They have urged individual companies to adopt digital services to enhance the safety of transporters while advising drivers against arming themselves.
Most of the time when the truck is there, it's going up, ascending up. So it reduces the speed. So when it reduces the speed, these criminals take advantage. It's a known thing by the police. It is a known thing that these incidents, they don't happen anywhere else. That is a place where these incidents happen.
Recently, drivers expressed their concerns over the growing number of truck hijackings across Africa.
Okay, we are having an operation there, and we don't want to start divulging information that may jeopardize our investigation.
When are you having that operation?
So we don't want to start divulging information that may jeopardize our ongoing operation.
Truck drivers are calling for a greater police presence around the Kapiringos area. Gabriel Wetesas Moba, Diamond News.
So, one of the hilarious, I just don't understand. These young men, they're not gentlemen, these young men in the video are clearly petty thieves. They're stealing bread, millimil, and coins, literally coins. And it's very sad because I don't want to believe that's what they do for a living. And if that's the case, then that's really, really sad. But you also see how systematic it is. It's well planned, and what they're gonna get money. And you see from the reaction of the driver that this is one of the things you really don't expect to happen in Zambia, because anywhere else, I think he would have not attempted to fight them or do anything like that. But it's Zambia, right? Like, what's going on? You ask yourself, like, are they being serious? And also, I might just imagine those guys just can do better than that. A thief, going in and saying Tagumari is just really funny for me. Like, really? Can we get serious, guys? And the Zambia Police Service obviously need to get a hold of those guys and discipline them. It reminds me of a certain time when I used to live in Mazabuga. There was this family. It was a family. Like, there were two brothers who were notorious for crime. They were the community knew them as armed robbers. One of the brothers was shot. I think his name was Maiten or something like that. He was shot dead, by the police for armed robbery, and the family was just notorious. And it was so strange for the community because such things in small communities are not very common, right? People know people, you know a lot of the people that are there. So how are you involved in crime that involves killing people, stealing from people, your neighbors and all that? So you find everybody knows you. So it's very difficult for people to commit these kinds of crimes. So you kind of want to use the same logic. But from that video, I also thought there's a need for truckers to get security. I don't think anybody carrying, and I remember hearing this from the truckers themselves. I don't think that it serves any, it saves and serves any purpose, right, for anybody or any organization, for somebody to be carrying your valuable goods worth millions and they have no security. I think we need to reconsider this. Yeah.
It was funny to see like other trucks passing. Like they didn't notice anything was happening.
I also found it really strange because the gentleman was outside. I think he should have been trying to get some help. But you see how comfortable those boys were.
Yeah, they were so comfortable. They had time. They had time to search. It's not like they knew where anything was. They had time to search. And go through the glove boxes and everything. It was so surprising.
Pathetic, huh?
But also, maybe there's something wrong with Zambia police's rapid response. Because if something like that happened, there should be rapid response.
But rapid response in the middle of nowhere.
I don't think it's always in the middle of nowhere, though.
But in this case, it is, though.
In the story, the spokesperson says it's known that because the trucks are very slow and they're going through an incline, this is where they're the most vulnerable.
I get that, but I mean, when you say rapid response, I don't think that it's feasible to get rapid response in the middle of nowhere. So maybe, well, I guess, I remember that there was such a problem in Eastern Province, and they had to get patrol in that area. But also, I think one of the most effective solutions is for the trucking companies, the truckers, to have security in those vehicles. You need a security guard. You cannot be transporting valuable goods. I mean, in the ideal situation, yes, that should be okay. But you are better safe than sorry. Even a firearm is a way of securing, your equipment. The man had a rod. Like, what is that rod going to do? And he tried to use it, but like on four people. And one of the things I was saying about those guys not being like typical criminals, because they really didn't harm him, and try to kill him or anything. They He's lived long enough to tell the story, and he attempted to beat them, but they didn't go back to kill him or any of those things. But that could turn really badly if it was a different group of criminals. We probably have worse criminals here in Lusaka who could kill somebody in an instant, and a lot of them, if anything, here in Lusaka. Anyway, Zambia aims to generate 1,000 megawatts of solar power by the end of 2025 as part of the efforts to address the country's energy deficit. Speaking at State House after meeting the solar energy explosion team, President Hakainde Hichilema emphasized the urgency of increasing power generation for both domestic consumption and export. The president is urging the private sector, including banks, to form consortiums to finance large-scale energy projects, stressing that sustainable investments in renewable energy are key to economic growth. Meanwhile, Energy Minister Makozo Chikota has encouraged households to adopt solar energy as an alternative power source, while ZESCO Managing Director Justin Longo stated that the utility has rolled out multiple projects that are aimed at reducing the current power shortfall. Let's take a look at this.
As you can see, the fridges are empty and we're unable to stock things. So it can be better if they bring back power.
With businesses and households struggling, the government is accelerating efforts to boost power generation. Speaking at State House after meeting the solar energy explosion team, President Hakainde Hichilema says there is need for the country to ramp up solar energy production as Zambia races to generate 1,000 megawatts of solar power by the end of 2025 in a bid to address the ongoing energy crisis. The president has called on the private sector, including banks, to form consortiums to fund large-scale renewable energy projects. This comes amidst frozen aid from the U.S. government, as U.S. said funding remains suspended, raising concerns over the financial sustainability of some development programs.
We have to buy the Arabs, so the treasury must become stronger from our own. We are on our own. I hope we agree that we are on our own. And I think this is a great window. I want to thank Mr. Trump, actually. I think he's slapped us, not on one cheek, but on both cheeks. We should have been hammered a long time ago, so that we look at growth of all our financial institutions. If the economy is growing, it's to be driven by your growth, isn't it? Is that not enough motivation to actually find solutions to the table? So we have 9 more months of the year. We can achieve 1,000 megawatts. Public sector, ZESCO pipeline, private sector, call it any name, Zambian, others, in solar alone. I'm not talking about Mamba. I'm talking about solar. That's what our objective should be. As the media goes, let's have a quick conversation. How do we get to 1,000 megawatts by December?
Energy Minister Makozo Chikota has urged Zambians to consider adopting solar energy at the household level, while ZESCO Managing Director Justin Longo says the power utility company has initiated several projects to mitigate the energy deficit.
Mr. President, you may wish to note that you already guided us as a ministry that first demonstration should start with all public institutions to put up rooftop solars. And this will demonstrate into encouraging even individuals at the household level to start investing in the rooftop solars.
As the government aims for a December 2025 deadline, attention will be focused on how quickly these solar projects can be rolled out to help ease the ongoing crisis. Darius Jonya, Diamond News.
So, it's good news to hear 1,000 megawatts of electricity from an alternative power source. Great, brilliant idea. My only worry is our energy mix in Zambia at the moment is too dependent on nature. Like every alternative that we are making is dependent on nature. So let's talk about solar, dependent on the sun. Let's talk about hydro, dependent on the weather. All of them are dependent on the weather. I think our energy mix needs to stretch a bit beyond that. And 1,000 megawatts on solar is a huge project. It's a huge project, and makes me a bit worried. But it also, makes me feel better that we're going to increase our energy generation capacity. If the president is projecting 1,000 megawatts of electricity from solar energy, that means that we would have over close to 5,000 megawatts of electricity capacity. It's not massive because, we're talking about countries with a bigger production of electricity, in Europe and in Eastern Asia. It's important to talk about our growth, but I think that we can grow so much more. There's a huge opportunity, and I see the president talking about it here as well. The sub-region, and indeed the African continent generally, is struggling with the capacity of production of electricity. Zambia, with its low generation of electricity, is like sixth largest producer of electricity on the African continent. Unless I'm wrong, but that is thereabout, right? Now, if that's the case, Zambia doesn't produce a lot of electricity. If that's the case, that means there's a huge deficit on the African continent, which is also demonstrated by the fact that there's over 600 million people that don't have access to electricity on the African continent. The target is to increase that, to reduce that to 300 million. Now, all of this shows you an opportunity. If Zambia invests so much in electricity generation and has huge capacity, we're going to be able to export this electricity to the region, which is struggling with a big electricity problem. So I see a huge opportunity there, and I hope that that's really where we're looking. And maybe ZESCO then can become a viable business, an actual business that's making money for Zambia and paying taxes. Otherwise, it's a burden. I know it gives us electricity, but it's a burden on the government because it's a loss-making business year in, year out. So, yeah.
I think a lot of Zambia's businesses are burdens to Zambia itself. ZESCO, all the universities are burdens to Zambia.
True. But I think that when you talk about burdens, the beauty about this podcast is we can digress a little bit. But when you talk about universities, I think that the burden is really also the fact that the government is the problem when it comes to universities. Like when we talk about University of Zambia, where you were, for example, the problem with the University of Zambia is that they're owed huge amounts of money by the government for people that they put on those scholarships now, as you call it, the bursary scheme. You give somebody 75% bursary, but you're not paying it to the university. Because if you give somebody that scholarship, it should not just be a write-off for UNZA. They should be paid that 75% so that they are able to run the institution. But if they're not getting that money, they will become a burden because the only thing they're going to be relying on are the grants. But they need money to sustain themselves as a business, and that's part of the problem.
But I also don't think the people that are sitting on those boards are thinking about sustainability as a business. I think they are lazy, like not the boards per se, but us in the private sector. We are always thinking about how to make money, because if we don't make that money, we won't eat.
I see you said lazy and then you were scared of saying it, but just speak. Nobody can see you.
They are lazy, to be honest, because they know even if whether they make the money, whether they do their job or not, then they will get paid at the end of the month.
But how do you explain the dynamic I've just explained?
No.
That, they have students if any, let's be honest, this is a huge number of students who are on. It's almost everyone who's on this
bursary.
on bursary at the institution. So how are they going to run it as a business if there's no money coming in?
No, but what I'm saying is they have that problem, but what have they done to prove that they're trying to run a business?
No, I think that the challenge there is an institution that is a public institution will always have interference from the government. So if you of all people should know this, that when the University of Zambia tells students that they're not going to write exams because they have not paid, who intervenes?
Government.
Exactly. So why do you think the University of Zambia does that? It's on the business side of it. They're trying to recover money. It's not just that they're excited and they're upset with you. No, they're stopping you from writing exams because they believe if we stop them from writing exams, they'll bring the money and then they'll write the exam because they want to write the exams.
No, but those decisions are made at last minute. You know, like when you go to an institution like Unilas, right? You know if you don't pay, you're not going to write the exam. But it has happened before where, like, the day of the exams, that's the day the memo is coming out.
I think that it's because of the political dynamic, yes. At the University of Lusaka, at Cavendish University, at any of these universities that are private, if you've not paid, no one is going to come and force the institution to make you write. And even because even at these institutions, the ones you've talked about, Unilas, Cavendish, and all those, there are people who write those exams with a balance. They're there. Why? They go and negotiate individually and tell them, well, I'm going to pay this on this day and on this day, and then you withhold my results, and then I'll pay. You have a negotiation and you have an agreement with the institution for them to allow you to get your docket and go and write your exam. But if there's a blanket approval for people to write because government has interfered, how is this going to run as a business? And this is one of the challenges ZESCO is facing. Let's face it. ZESCO is also facing a challenge where you and I do not pay the actual cost of electricity. But it's a bit of a different scenario here because we are talking about a country where poverty is high. You cannot expect an economy like present Zambia economy today. The economy today is in a shambles. The kwacha is running away. How do you expect government to come and I don't expect government to come and tell the citizens they need to pay cost reflective tariffs. With which money? People are not making money. The economy, the environment of the economy is not thriving.
Now, it's the same thing that you said earlier on. You said you saw a business opportunity, right? If we can increase our generation, then there's a possibility of us making money by export. But
Yes.
for the longest time, we relied on one generation source.
True.
So, and you can't tell me studies were not done to not see this problem, to see they never saw this problem coming a long time ago. So with proper planning, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, but with proper planning, they could have sourced for funds to increase generation a long time ago, saying we can't, supplying to Zambia itself is not sustainable, but our business opportunity here is export. So for us to do that effectively, we need to increase our generation, and we don't have to look at at one source of generation that's dependent on weather itself.
True. Well, I mean, a lot of the problems that we face as Africa are more leadership problems than they are, resource problems. They are more leadership problems than they are resource problems. I mean, look, it's like how Donald Trump and the Republican government, his administration, are taking these tough decisions on aid to the rest of the world. It's two types of leadership. One leadership is going to be helpless. Even now, as we speak, some leaderships on the African continent are going to be helpless and start looking for alternative aid from China, from the East, basically. But and other administrations are going to be bold and start finding homegrown solutions to their home problems.
80% is going to go looking for aid.
True. a lot of them, I don't know how you quantify your 80%, but a lot of them are going to go to look for aid. They've already started. I mean, let's give an example of Zambia. The Minister of Information and Media said they've started, in effect, he's saying that we are now looking at the East. He said we're going to treat, in light of the geopolitical situation of what's happening with the US, we're now going to start treating all equally. And that's going to be our policy. He said that was what the cabinet, looked at. I mean, what's the only thing that we are struggling with the US? We've got good diplomatic relations. The only thing they've done is cut aid. So if we are looking anywhere else, then what are we looking for? As the US has not said, we've cut off ties with Zambia. We are not going to be dealing with Zambia. They've just said, well, we need to restrict the aid. So if the only problem is aid and we're looking elsewhere for bilateral partners, then we're probably looking for aid elsewhere. Anywho, on another sad note, a businessman of Lusaka's Chainda compound, Blackford Peary, has been sentenced to life imprisonment for murdering his ex-girlfriend's 5-year-old son. The Lusaka High Court found Peary guilty of strangling the child and disposing of his body. Oh, man. In 2mm sacks, contrary to Section 200 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Let's take a look at this.
A Lusaka businessman has been sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of his ex-girlfriend's 5-year-old son, Blackford Peary, a former community chairman from Lusaka's Chainda compound. And at one point, the mother's landlord has been convicted of strangling Justin Mvula to death on 10th September 2019. Mr. Peary and the child's mother had once cohabited before their relationship ended. The body of the child was discovered in 2 empty 25-kilogram millimil sacks. Investigations revealed that polyethylene strings were used to fasten the plastic bag around the child's neck and head, with similar strings later found in the convict's home. When the case came before Judge Mwapebowa for ruling, the court rejected Mr. Peary's defense, which claimed the strings found at his house were only used for tying broiler chickens and the pump to his bicycle. The court has also found that Mr. Peary had been bitter towards the child's mother following their failed cohabitation. This anger led him to target the child, who at times referred to him as Daddy. According to the court's findings, the child trusted Mr. Peary and readily availed himself to him. The child visited the convict at his house on the day of the murder, where he proceeded to strangle him. He then placed the body into the sacks and used his bicycle to transport and dispose of it at a later location where it was eventually discovered. In its ruling, the court has concluded that the circumstances surrounding the murder pointed to the convict as the sole perpetrator. Judge Mwapebowa has stated that the evidence presented had proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Peary has been convicted of 1 count of murder, contrary to Section 200 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Best Jere, Diamond News.
This is tragic. We're done. Thank you for watching this edition of Zambia. I'm doing so many shows. I don't even know the name of this one. Like, thank you for watching Zambia What a Day. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. Have a lovely day.